Whether you're new to pool and practicing the basics, or a more experienced player performing drills to improve your shot making and positional play, the Drill Partner is perfect for you.
Well, Pinozo, I've been up since 3:30 a.m., buddy.
Buenos dias, amigo.
I
You're doing
got
the
up thinking
Spanish
that it's
Open.
yeah, I thought it started at 4 a.m. Central. I get up at 3:30. Match is already in progress. I'm already on tilt because I didn't go to bed till like 11:30 at night. So I've had quite the morning. Pinozo, Birds Digest, how are you, my man?
Good, good.
All right.
All
Well, I'm
set.
ready to talk. I'm ready to talk Spanish Open because there's been just a lot to go over and a lot to discuss. A lot of upsets, a little bit, especially in the last like few hours, Mike. If I'm not mistaken. So
A few, but I think really overall, I mean, if you look at the 32 who have made it through to the single elimination already,
it's cream, Mike.
that's a pretty stout 32. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's no 14-year-olds in there. There's no first time players in there. It's a solid list.
Well, speaking of 14-year-olds, I think he's on the TV table in Riku, playing against Elliot Sanderson. Last I checked, and we saw
Yeah,
Elliot earlier this morning playing against old SVB, and yeah, Shane really wasn't any kind of threat except for like maybe the first quarter of the match, and
yeah.
aside from that, he just kind of rolled on through. But Mike, what's been your takeaway through the first couple days of this year's Spanish Open?
Cream rising to the top type of thing. Just
Mm.
the favorites are playing like favorites. There've been some good matches. There've been a few upsets here and there,
Right.
but I mean, Josh obviously going down. Chua is no slouch, obviously, but you expect to see Josh in the final 64, and right now he's in the losers bracket and trailing Sullivan Clark
But
4-3.
right
But
before we started, you told me because I wasn't
yeah,
even watching that match. I'm just thinking it's a foregone conclusion that Josh is going to get through Sullivan, and then right before we go live, you told me he started off down 4-1.
down 4-1, but now it's 4-3, and like I kidded before, I expect the final score to be 9-4. So, so yeah, I mean it's good, but that you've got a guy like Josh on the loser's side, you've got a guy like Aranis on the loser's side, you've got a guy like Sky on the loser's side. They're going to draw into somebody pretty good in that first round of 64. So that's that'll be interesting. I do like that the top 32 seeded players are, pretty much right up there at those top 32 players, pretty close. So that means that there's a good chance that later in the tournament you could see that like just killer final 16 or the killer final 8, which is what I'm really looking. I love upsets and I like new stories, but I like every once in a while when a
You're the
tournament.
sports writer. You have to. It's part of
Well,
the job
but I
description.
also do like sometimes when you get that final 8 that is chalk, the top 8 guys. Okay, let's have at it. I
We
love
got
that
that in
too.
the last event. We got the final four. I want to say at least if was just it didn't
It-
matter which combination of names that you had. It was going to
yeah,
be a real sexy matchup.
yeah, it was gonna be great. It's interesting when you get Final Four like that, and Sky is like the outsider. So that then it was a talented Final Four.
Right.
Uh,
Right. Yeah.
so yeah, I'd like to see that stuff kind of take shape as well.
Well, let's talk stories, Mike, because for me, the story of the event, or at least up until this point, besides the Chinese players being back, which I'm sure we'll get to here in a little bit, but for me, it was a little brother, and usually when you say little brother, everyone thinks of Ko Pin Chung. Now, although he was a story earlier today, the little brother I'm talking about today is a little brother of that Clint Kachi, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, and we've seen video of him, and like people are saying, if it walks like a Kachi and shoots like a Kachi and tilts his head like a
Yeah,
Kachi,
might be a
it's pretty
yeah.
good chance it's a Kachi. And I've not got really to see him play much, but um, you know, I saw him walk around the table twice. I'm like, well, the kid's got the demeanor, he's got the setup, the approach that his big brother has, and he, when you're that young, you usually shoot pretty damn straight, and
Indeed.
he's good. Did he was he the one who took out Mario? Who beat Mario? He.
Gary Wilson
98.
sent
Oh, Gary Wilson is
yeah,
right.
Gary Wilson, the
Yeah,
snooker player.
second, another
Yeah.
another hill match for him that he got through. So
Yeah, takes
um,
down James Aranas. Hill takes down Mario Hill.
right.
And this is someone that, last event that we talked about on the subject of Gary Wilson, you were like, all right, that's good enough. You made it. You proved your point, but this
Yeah.
is what it ends. But Mike, he's continuing to take down names and not just
Well,
names,
here's where my attitude changes this event, because it's not a I'm coming in as a lark to draw some viewers for Matchroom, and then I'm going to go back and practice my snooker. This 2 tournaments
he's
in a row for
playing.
the guy, so he's
Yeah.
playing. He's in there to learn. He's in there to take on some people. He seems like he likes the nuance of the game. So yeah, I'm at this point I'm like, okay, let's take your shot. Let's see how you do.
I've seen a couple of the interviews, and I love his honesty. Just talking about maybe his holes in the game, but also what drives him, and that's the fact that the guy's a competitor. I mean, he's an athlete. He whether
Yeah.
it's a snooker table or a pool table, I don't think he's here to be a sideshow by any means.
Right.
And the more that he gains experience and takes down names, and it's kind of I'm going to equate it to kind of like when a male player will face a female player. I don't think any of these pool players want to lose to the snooker player, Mike. And I think that may
No.
be part of what gets in those guys. And I'm not trying to discredit the man's ability whatsoever, but I think to an extent, if you were to have a candid conversation with some of these guys, nobody wants to be the one to lose to the snooker player.
No, I mean, nobody in like the top 32,
Right.
or
That's
top,
what I mean. Yeah.
nobody
Yeah.
who's considered a favorite.
Right.
Everybody else, I mean, they got to assume they're going to get drilled, because you may be a snooker player, but when you're one of the best cueists on the planet, you can play any game with a little bit of time, right? You
Right.
know how to.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see where he goes. It looks like well, he's in the final 64 now, so we'll see what happens.
I mean, you mentioned a few of the names that are on the one loss side, including Mario, who he sent over there, James, who he sent over there, two other
Right.
guys that got sent over there, a little Cove via Tyler Hill, and the other one was Josh by Chua, in a
Yeah.
pretty convincing fashion.
And Sky.
Right, yeah, Sky earlier as well. And, he never really looked comfortable. And I know the gentleman from China, I mean, he's a monster, and his break was phenomenal. And I think as he continues to play on the Matchroom stage, that's one of the guys that you want to really keep an eye on, because he can just gain momentum with that break throughout the event, because it was really just his pocketing that was
suspect sometimes. Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's being generous, Mike, by using that phrase with him. But yeah, I think it'll make for quite the round of 64 single elimination. I'm really looking forward to it. And I know I say most events, but you're right when it comes to just marquee names from the top of the shelf to the quote unquote bottom of the shelf.
Yeah, and like I said, it's also good that these top 32 guys, aren't going to start playing each other till the final 32. They're all going to get a chance to match up a little bit later than a couple of these guys are going to get. Someone's going to, if Josh comes back, someone's going to draw Filler into that 32, and someone's going to draw Sky into that 32, and someone's going to draw a little Co into that 32. But overall, it sets up for some pretty good matches in 16.
Well, I haven't looked which one will line up to which. Hold on, I'm trying to think here. Oh no, I thought there was a potential for a Jason versus
it's all
Shane.
redraw now, right?
Yeah, but I'm saying if they were to win their respective final 64 matches, but no, they'd have to play a couple more rounds. But yeah, no, Mike, I want to just circle back to on Claudio, because I woke up that morning whenever he played. I think it was Sufi to start the event, if I'm not mistaken. I got up and I just happened to. That match was already long over with, but I went back and watched him, Mike, and that kid was just playing pretty sporty. He was breaking very well and took advantage of moments that I don't really see when it comes to a lot of these players that are making transitions over to playing 9-ball pool. Like, don't get me wrong, they can connect the dots, but when they got to work at it, that's whenever I find that they'll get themselves into trouble, if that makes sense, Mike.
Yeah, but do you think Kachi's brother is, been a dyed-in-the-wool snooker player from day one? No, I think he's played plenty of pool with Eklund. I think he's learned, what his brother thinks, how he takes on shots, how he looks at things. I think that, there's a difference between Claudio Cacci and Gary Wilson. Gary Wilson's a snooker player, right? He's a world-class, top of the shelf snooker player. Claudio Cacci, really solid young player, plays a lot of snooker, but I think that
but it really goes against the grain when you have a kid just show up and just dominate on 4-inch pockets on TV table matchups against, these aren't the no-name Spanish players that are just, to fill out a field. Talking
Right.
about, he beat Sufi, he beat Bader, he beat, who's the other guy that I'm thinking of? Another world pool master, Mike. So he wasn't facing any slouches, Mike. Is
No,
my
he
point.
wasn't facing any
And you
slouches.
really, you don't see
He wasn't
kids just
facing a
show
top
up and do
16
this.
either.
Well, I mean, Sufi was in a final of a world championship lately, Mike. And he may be a flash in the pan, and I'm sure that's what you're going to say, right?
Let's not get carried away.
I know you a little bit, right?
Yeah,
to where you might say he's a flash in the pan.
We haven't seen Omar Al Shaheen in 3 years, so they can come and go in a hurry.
Conversation for sure. But Omar was already well sustained up until that point. I don't know why the hell we ain't seen Omar, but I don't know what this kid's ceiling is. As tall as he is, I'd imagine it's pretty high. And when you start taking down names, and plus, kind of like how I said when it comes to nobody wants to lose to Gary, I don't think anybody wants to lose to little brother either. And any name players that he may face in that second round. And I hope for the sake of a great television that we get to watch him match up with one of these bigger names that are on the one-loss side, because I think that'll make for,
I want to see him draw into his brother.
Kachi? Well, he can't because they're both on the winner's side.
But I mean, and say it gets to the round of 32. I'd like to see them draw into each other sooner than later.
Little brother's laying down. Has to lay down, right, Mike? He's gonna pull a Pia filler and just forfeit out the match, right? I mean, has to, right? There's no other way.
Is he gonna do it? Is he gonna do a Oscar and
Ernesto, where Ernesto just withdraws? Of course, they have to. Yeah, I mean,
like a brick.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? It's family, right? It's family.
Pia took a shot at Josh. I mean, come on.
Well, but tournaments before she had just withdrew.
Yeah.
And I think that ended up being probably one of the most viewed matches on Matchroom's YouTube page, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So it paid off for them to go and face off with one another. But
I'm going with Aaron Lake here. I like the Albanian Eagle and his little brother, the Albanian Beagle.
Beagle with the haircut? Is that what you're going with here? I think that's pretty funny. It's pretty witty, actually, as well.
The big boy. I don't think I'm calling him a beagle in front of his face.
He'd grab you by the neck, Mike, and just hold you up, in a heartbeat. Let's talk about the Chinese players, Mike. Some have been overwhelming, some have been underwhelming, some have been kind of just steady. What are your thoughts throughout them being back?
Everybody wanted to see Wu come out, and he's looked good. I haven't seen any chinks in his armor. I mean, a little bit of rust maybe, but he's looked really good through 3 matches, so he's through. There's your man Zhang got eliminated today.
Surprising, Mike. Surprising.
Yeah. So it's going to take a little while.
I know Babkin gave Wu all that he could handle as well in their matchup, because he faced him right before he faced Zhang. But that kid was highly touted as being the next best, and I think the reason why he got in the World Pool Masters was because he was who the CBSA recommended, to represent China getting into that event, Mike. Right. So he can play. He's got talent. Would you just say it's just kind of getting acclimated?
Learning curve. A lot of even though he's coming in kind of as an unknown, I think that he felt some pressure. So it may take he's a young kid. It may take a little while for him to get used to advancing 3-4 rounds on the winner's side. But the talent's there, obviously.
Well, it'll have to be a different day for him to get through 4 rounds on the winner's side, because he's been sent packing in this event, but there was another guy in Wang Can who I had a lot of expectations for. We saw him years ago come into the U.S., Mike, and kind of take and really take over here in the States, traveling around, not just playing in big table tournaments.
He was in Greece.
He stayed in it, Mike. I mean, everywhere you look, that kid was playing anywhere and everywhere. Bar table events, you name it, Mike. He was all over the place and had success. Now I know it's been some years since we've seen him, but that matchup with Federer in particular, I I don't know if it was just Federer being the monster that he can be, or if it was just that kid falling up short, Mike. I don't know if you got to see that match at all.
I didn't get to see much. I saw a little bit of that match. I'm not. I mean, Wayne Can's he did do some damage when he was there in the States, but the times I've seen him, he hasn't like struck me as a you know final 16 kind of guy. Not in these big fields. So maybe I'm missing something. I'm sure he's got a lot of talent there, but I don't put him in the same category, obviously, like a Wu or something like that is what I'm expecting when I watch him. So I didn't expect him to beat Filler or, go toe to toe with Filler to 8-8 or something like that. I just, his game just
Federer.
Federer, yeah, his game just doesn't have that kind of dazzle to me.
I watched a little bit of that matchup, and Federer gave him some chances a little early on, and I think it was just a comedy of errors after that when it came to Wang
Yeah,
Can in his game, because he really, once he stumbled, he stayed stumbling and could never really get any traction. And even in racks and in pivotal spots, in that heart of the match where, okay, this is where momentum can shift,
right.
he had opportunity and then gave it right back, which you can't do. And on the other hand, Federer's someone who we all know what the expectation is for Federer, right? He's
Yeah,
you got him. You're a Sunday kind of guy if your name is Federer, right? And that's where we expect him to be at. I think anything less is kind of a disappointment, but we still know that he's getting readjusted to playing on these bigger stages, and I think he is a player where he's only getting stronger. It looks like, Mike.
yeah. I mean, you assume that he's getting a little more comfortable with it. He's learning what he needs to do process wise and getting ready for matches wise and how these tournaments work as far as the time between matches and we all know that he can beat anyway. His game is top shelf. So yeah, I think it is just a matter of getting used to these stages. And you get into these tournaments. There's a lot of really good players, so you can lose to anybody. Single elimination from final 64 in is that's a tough go.
Well, I mean, now you're just gonna have to be dodging bullets no matter what. I mean,
Right.
imagine, we talked about having, a kid like Claudio, draw into one of the bigger names. You know, imagine if Josh gets drawn into Federer in that round of 64.
Yeah,
I might be getting ahead of ourselves because I don't even know what the score is of that
he's losing
matchup.
six to four.
Is he down six
Sullivan
four?
Clark Sullivan Clark's up 6-4, going to 9.
Well, oh,
So they
and
still have some work to do, but that would be it. That would be a shock. I mean, that's one of those that would be, you've seen Josh lose before, but you don't see him lose in the losers bracket to someone he's supposed to demolish.
do
Not
you
too often.
think that? Do you think Emily sends in the security guard to go knock Sullivan upside the head?
Well, no, I think that she's got some,
I'm kidding.
some people who will draw eyes already in the final 32. So she's pretty
Oh Lord.
safe in terms of she's pretty safe in
Yeah.
terms of having some high end talent out there. But yeah, losing Josh would be tough.
Well, this is the beauty of what these formats lend itself to, right? And how if you take the bull by the horns, you can go make a name for yourself, And this would be really the second event in a row where a former member of Team Europe does not make it through the single elimination stage. We saw Albin last year, get left behind. And for a chance for Josh, of all players, who I think to start the day, if I'm not mistaken, Mike, to start today, he was the betting favorite to win the event.
Right.
So you want to talk about a shock? I don't think
Yeah,
it
for
gets
him.
any.
Yeah, when would be the last time Josh Filler went 2 and out of a tournament? As far as back-to-back losses. That to not make the single elimination. That's a reach.
Yeah,
Uh,
for sure.
but you talk about Team Europe players. Let's talk about Team USA players. We got three into the final 64. Two in the winner's side. That's pretty good. And another tournament where a guy takes down a player, above his pedigree, just for Tyler to take down Little Co,
Big,
in
Mike.
last
Big.
tournament for Shane Wolford to take down Mario and for Sky to make the Final Four. That's the type of progress that I've been like hammering on for the past 6 months about what do you want to see going into this year's Mosconi Cup. I want to see Team USA players step up more than they did last year on these international stages. So that's a big deal. And for Tyler to win Hill, we always question his getting a little
Can he
shaky
get there?
when
Can he get there when it gets thick, Mike? That's the thing. It's not that.
top player.
I, yeah.
Well, listen, he dodged a bullet beating Pia. I mean, it was 7-7, and he gave her the table.
So you went from giving the guy mad props to being a little cold to just throwing shade on him.
I'm just saying. I'm saying.
No, I agree with you. I'm not arguing with you. I agree with you.
He held it together to trudge through that match, even though he wasn't playing great. And then he comes back against Little Cole and beats him Hill. That's showing some moxie. And so I like what I'm seeing out of the U.S. players in terms of getting these opportunities and making the most of them.
But isn't that the double-edged sword when it comes to Tyler? Is that you don't know which one's going to show up?
No doubt about it. But that's more a case of you don't know which one's going to show up. A guy who's going to lose to a nobody, or a guy who's going to faint at the end of a big match against a good player. So, to see him not faint at the end of a match against a big player,
this could be a turning of the page, Mike.
That's good. It's a good thing.
With 100%, I couldn't agree with you more. While I appreciate you bringing up that Pia match because it was it was ugly at times. He did find a way to get through it, and more importantly, when you take down a guy who's playing as well as Ko Ping Chung is, in that situation where you get a win and you're through single elimination. And he was an underdog. Don't get it twisted, Mike. Yeah. He was a big underdog. Going 9, he's probably like a 2.5 game, underdog to Little Ko.
Yeah.
And I probably still would have laid it taking Ko Ping Chung. But I think that right now, along with Wolford, I think he's got a spot to lose on this year's team because I think right now he's in on Team USA. And we all know Shane and Sky are going to be there. But for me, those 4 guys, or whether you make it in on points or not, your ass is there right now going into December playing on Team USA if you're those 2 guys.
I would probably agree that those are 4 players who have to, lose their way out of it at this point. If they kind of hold serve the rest of the year, they would be 4 that you would definitely be going for. Obviously, the first 3 on points, and then whichever one's not on points, you'd probably give them the wild card. Still time for other people to make some waves, but
it's going to leave a lot of what happened last year kind of come to the table again if the ship stays the course, Mike, where that number 5th spot is going to be wide open because nobody is grabbing the balls and just running with it.
Right? No, the 5th spot right now is
I mean, you got a shot at it.
It's Earl's to lose.
It's Earl's to Earl's going to collect 15,000, no doubt. Earl's looking real good from the couch right about now, right? Because nobody else is doing anything.
You see guys like Billy, not being at a couple of these events. You see, Oscar, taking a step back. So it really opens it up. It's kind of wide open. I think that Billy probably has the best shot if he plays the European, if he plays the U.S. Open, and shows a little bit of that toughness that that you can use in something like a Mosconi Cup. Then I think maybe he's still, I don't know where I'd go with number 5 now. Where I'd feel really comfortable.
Well, I don't think anyone's gonna make you feel super comfortable, but I would like to see a wrench thrown in there because, like somebody with upside. I don't want to see someone who,
someone's upside to me right now is Shane Wolford. Who we've already
but like I'm already thinking that's a
can you go with 2 of those on the team?
What else you got to lose, Mike? What you're afraid to
get
embarrassed?
If you're Jeremy or whoever the
before.
captain is, your job. If the captain's going to go with the guys who give him the best, unless Matchroom gives this year's captain.
Yeah, but Billy
a
ain't
2 or
shifting the
3
line.
guarantee.
Billy's not shifting a line by a point and a half, or a point, but he can give you an uppercut and take down a name here or there.
Right,
And he's been
exactly.
there before. I get that,
Exactly.
from an experience standpoint. But it's like I don't know. I'd rather see someone who maybe you don't know how they're going to do, but they have a ton of upside. Whereas I kind of have an idea of what I can
Like
expect
who?
from Billy being out there. Call me crazy, Mike, but I'd probably give Lucas a shot. I really would.
Yeah, I'd be a
Just
little nervous on Lucas and Shane Wolford, and being on the team at the same time as first timers. But who can, who am I? But anyways, I think we went off the rails a little on Moscone Cup. Let's get back to the Spanish.
which we tend to do from time to time.
Yeah,
By the way,
that's right.
yeah. There's other Moscone Cup members from Team Europe who have made it through. FSR, Jason Shaw. I think Albin has made it through as well. A lot of guys who are vying for spots. Mike Moritz has quietly made his way.
I don't even know if it's
through,
quiet
through the
anymore. Moritz, you're just getting used to seeing him make that single elimination phase without much trouble.
Well, you're playing your way into the conversation when you have results, Mike. But there's a lot of young Europeans with a lot of hardware who are just as talented, like a Victor, like a Sanjin, kids who we've seen do very
Yeah.
well, that I think are a little bit ahead of them. But Maritz has got a great opportunity to kind of stand on his own stage, when it comes to these individual events,
Yeah.
and the interview that I seen with Matchroom following his match that got him through the final 64, one thing that I really took away was just how poised he was. Very level headed, very aware of where he's at, but also aware of the fact that he's got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
And the job isn't done yet. I don't think he's hanging any kind of like moral victories that I got here, because I feel like he
he's
still
through
thinks that
that.
he
I
can
mean,
get there further.
that was last year's player.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's kind of like it's not a now you expect him to be there versus
And
he's
he
a
expects
story and being
himself.
there.
He expects himself to be there, which is that's a big jump level wise mentally. When it's like, okay, last year it was like, yeah, I'm just happy to be the final 64. Everything after here is gravy. Now
Well, yeah, because you were free rolling at that point, weren't you, Mike?
right, and now his mindset is, well, it's final 64. This is where I'm supposed to be. I got to get to 16 now.
Well, speaking of kids who have made a name for themselves, Riku's up 7-5 over Elliott Sanderson. Labutus is up 8-7 over Bader. Moore is on the hill against Robbie Capito. A lot of names are going to go out this round. How's old Joshy doing? Oh, 6-5, Mike. 6-5. We got action.
What about Meals? I didn't notice where he was.
9-4 over Candela, but I heard that he dogged the 9-ball to make it hill against who did he play the round before?
Demetrius Lucatus.
Yeah, and that's we talk about people who are playing to get on in December.
Yeah, that's two tournaments in a row. You drilled one into the rail.
Act in clutch spots, Mike. That's tough. It's tough.
Yeah,
I
see your boy Jonas is out.
Well, that was Joey's dark horse to do well in the event, but I think the kid's got a ton of talent. It's a lot of pressure being playing in front of your home fans and your family and all that, who I'm sure was there. And but I think that kid's got the world of a ceiling as well, and I'm excited to see him and Delgado play in next week's World Cup of Pool, Mike. That's one team that I think could really cause some waves, being a underdog throughout the event.
Yeah, no doubt. See,
Ralph
Soke made the final 32, right?
I'm sure you're loving that, Mike. For the one for the gray hairs.
Going with the gray. He's got no hair, but that's all right.
That's right.
We're kind of in the same.
Yeah, that's funny, man. So, what are some other takeaways that you've had throughout the event, Mike, and what are you looking forward to through the final 64?
I think that I think it's setting up to be a really good, strong final 64. I'm looking for a really good. I told you before, I want to see a really solid final 16. I don't want to see, 6 of my favorite guys gone. I want to see some good head-to-head battles. I think, the setup, the arena, typical Matchroom production looks solid. I think that Spain, as you get, a little bit deeper into the tournament, I think there's going to be a probably more fan support than we saw maybe in the UK. I think the Spanish, I think that they really pushed hard to get a lot of interest in this there, and I'd love to see this be an annual event in Spain. I think that's a great spot. So yeah, I'm just looking forward to just every round things are amping up.
What are some players you expect to get through that final 8, Mike? And what are some names that you wouldn't be surprised if they fall?
I expect to see Kachi into the final 8. One of them for sure. give me a Kachi any day.
Yeah, Joey said after day one, because he picked 6 players to win the event, right? I gave him 6 players versus the field, and when he said Kachi, he messaged me after day one, and he said, technically, I didn't say which Kachi.
So, that's right. So he's got the pick of the litter.
He's got 7 players now.
Yeah, no, I think I expect Kachi to be in the final 8. I expect Wu to be in the final 8.
Would that be the story, Mike, if he, can get to Sunday?
I think we'd all love to see him, because he's like, he's that story of what could have been. People talk about him, we haven't seen him since the U.S. Open in 19. Well, we didn't see him a lot before that either. There were a number of years where he was just out.
1 event, 2 events, if that.
Yeah, and so, we want to see that kid that had all that had all the promise. What the hell? He won 2 world championships at 16. So, watching someone like that, I'd love to see him take a deep run, and I'd love to see him win. And then maybe we'll see him, every tournament, because that's one thing that we all want to see. So, I think Chua has, he's got a chance to get that final 8. Federer,
you play like that, you do. You play like you did against Josh, you got a real good chance to make it.
I mean, we're looking at, I could give you 8 guys from that, field right now that would make just a.
Okay, so give me a big name that you think is going to fall.
A big name that's going to fall between now and the finals.
Or like that? No, I mean, let's just say, that's too easy. Give me a name who won't make the final 8.
Name who won't make the final 8. Josh won't make the final 8.
Well, hell, he may not make the final 64, Mike.
Well,
depending on what Sullivan does with him. Shit, man, you gotta give me. You can't take that. You just I teed it up for you, buddy.
Shaw won't make the final 8.
Is that news though, Mike? Is that
no,
going on a limb?
It's kind of not.
I mean, I'm not. It's not.
And it's the same. Really, it's kind of. Well, I don't know if it's the same or not. Victor won't make the final 8.
I mean,
Shane won't make the final 8.
That I would go on there with you. Victor, I keep on saying that I think he's going to take that next step, but then I don't know how many events I can continue to say that, and then he doesn't. We all know we all know what the talent is, but you got to go and live up to that promise, right? And I hope he does, because that's another story in and of itself, because I love the way that kid plays pool, and I think he's got world champion pedigree written all over him. I really do. The body language, and we discussed this before on air and off air, but that body language is something that really bothers me with that kid, because that's here, Mike. Like, right. That's something that ain't working up here, where you're just
a lot.
And like in parts of the match where like you're still in it, kid. You're still very much in the match, and there's a lot of guys who thrive off of knowing they got you right now. They got in your head right now. They may not go and say it publicly, but I know of a lot of pool players that when they see that, they just smell blood, Mike.
Yeah. No, it's something you use to jack yourself up. Someone like Albin. You think Albin makes final 8?
No, I don't.
No.
How
about Moritz? I like Moritz to make the final 8.
I hope so.
He would be my dark horse final 8.
I hope the kid makes it. We'll see. You got to get there first before you can start picking them and stuff like that. For me, anyway. Well, when it comes to ability,
it's not that big a deal for him anymore.
I think it is, Mike. You take there's a lot of guys who ain't been in a final. Jason Shaw ain't been in a final 16 since when? You don't think he would take a final 16 right about now, Mike?
Yeah,
I mean, I don't
probably.
want to say it like that, but I mean that's being real with it, you know. And I because everybody touts Jason to be this like top 5 betting favorite to make every event, you know. And so like he's got those expectations, but like consistently hasn't lived up to them, you know. Where I think a kid like that, those are the kind of moral victories you can take away. That even if you don't win it, that you know, okay, you know what, I'm trending the right way, right? I'm
So,
going in the right direction.
here's three. Which makes the final eight?
Okay.
Moritz, Cledio, Chua.
Chua, snap call, Chua, because I've seen him do it long enough, and I know he hasn't been here in quite some time, but there's history to lean on with him. And we talk about confidence in here, beating a guy like Josh on a TV table, on a matchroom stage, on 4-inch pockets, you know, to get into a single elimination. That'll boost your confidence, Mike.
Yeah, sure.
That'll let you know you can dance and you can beat anybody in this tournament. You know, 1,000,000%. Now I still hope those other two, you know, young men go and take the bull by the horns as well, because I would love to see it, Mike. I really would, you know. But um, Chua is, you're in a real good spot, man. You know, and that it wasn't just that for me when I watched that match. It wasn't like a he broke well, he was running out, made a little positional errors here or there, but he controlled the entire match for the most part,
Mhm.
except for like a small portion at the end. I feel like, but like even whenever he like if he couldn't get out, you were working to hit that ball, you
Yeah.
know, where usually you have a lot of rust to kind of work your way through with a lot of these guys who come over who haven't been over here in a long time. He looked very comfortable. Now I know him and Josh have a lot of history. I remember seeing them, you know, years ago at the International Open. And they were gambling till, you know, the wee hours of the morning. You know, they know each other very well. But it's when you go and dominate like that. Well, now there's expectations, and I'm going to lean on that, because not only can you, we know you can play well. You know you can play well against anyone, but you've also had a history of being in big events before. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
for all those reasons is why I would pick him out of the three. But you know, from an odds standpoint, you got to figure a few of these lesser names, young guys, whatever, are gonna pull off what we would consider
Well,
an upset, Mike.
yeah. Well, we'll have to like reassess when they redraw, because that'll change. That can change a lot of.
Well, yeah, once you know where they're going and who they're going to be facing, then you may
Yeah,
go and
you
pump
got to
the
see
brakes
what
a
the
little
road.
bit.
Yeah, you got
Yeah.
to see what the road looks like. So once they do
Well,
the
believe me,
redraw,
if Chua draws Josh again, I'm not going to feel as confident in you know, in my
you're
pick to make it to the
you're not
final
going to
eight.
give you're not going to give Josh 8 games in the second time.
I might not. You know, I might take Chua +2, and I may not love it. I'll put it like that. So, no, but we know what a guy like Josh can do if you give him a chance. You know, I think everybody wouldn't be upset if he left the tournament right now. You know,
No, no, there wouldn't be a lot of sympathy cards going out.
yeah. I mean, they may have a parade. What's the score right now, by the way, Mike? Oh,
That's
Josh has got the lead, 7-6, Mike. So
yeah.
old Joshy ain't going anywhere just yet. He's not only
I
came
think
back, but he's got the lead at
I
the.
think I think Pia's been sending them little clips from our show.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure they'll eventually see it, I'd imagine. But I mean, you know, I like when guys are winners and they continue to win. You know,
Yeah,
Mike, because it takes a lot. Like, it's one thing when you have a flash in the pan, it's another thing when you have consistency. Josh has had consistency going. You talk about
oh
how
yeah,
long ago it was, how long
Josh
ago it
goes
was that
deep.
we saw Woo. You know,
Yeah,
in 19, Josh was dominating, Mike, and
yeah.
now here we are 4 years later, and he's still in that conversation regularly as far as
Every
dominating.
tournament, sure.
Yes, every tournament, you know, and that's the kind of talent that he is. A guy like Wu, we know what he has the potential to do. A guy like Fran, if he can get out of soft breaking, I think he's got a great chance, because he looked pretty confident as well. But that break was a little, you know what I mean? It was a little rough. They had that post from Matchroom about Copigny. I think he's dropped like 4 racks through 3 rounds. You know, so um, I hope we
talent
get the sexy.
talent level goes up starting tomorrow.
Yeah, that's a Joey Ryan take right there.
Well, yeah, but I mean, he's not going to go through the rest of the tournament giving up one rack a match.
No, of course. And there's something to say when it comes to facing adversity. But, you know, we've seen him in the World Pool Masters, obviously, right? Face great players from start to finish and be able to deliver. We saw him at the end of the UK Open play very well, also, Mike.
Mhm.
So we know what he can do when it gets thick. We know that he's battle tested. I think we're going to see, I hope anyway, we're going to see a good mix of the same cast of dominating characters peppered in with some of these kids who can really make a name for themselves right now. And this is the beauty of what Matchroom's created. I mean, I bitched the other day about, the amount of money in pool and it's tough for, payouts for some of these guys to travel. The flip
Right.
side of that argument is, Mike, is that you can get rewarded by your play, not because of anything else, but because of how well you go out there and you compete, Mike.
Right.
And that's where a lot of these guys that if now you're poised and you're in a spot where you can really, stand on your own 2 feet and stand up tall.
Yeah, no,
So
that's true.
anyway, Spanish Open is going to continue on. We're going to have more stuff. Maybe we'll get Mike if he's not too under the gun when it comes to all of his other projects he's got going on. I'm going to try to get some more. I'm going to try to get some players to interview as well
Yeah, that'd be
throughout
great.
there. Yeah, I try to get Chua, but I don't know. Maybe he's dodging me a little bit. We'll see. All right, Mike, give me your pick from here. Give me a favorite and
I gotta
a
wait till I
dark
see
horse.
that. I gotta wait to
Don't
see
give me
the
that.
the
Oh, come on.
brackets. It
No.
changes everything. If Filler draws into Woo, in the
How sick would that be?
64,
How sick would that be?
so it's kind of
Anybody who is Shane, Jason, or if Filler draws into Jason, Jason's going on massive tilt before they even black. I guarantee you. Woo. There's like a million names that you can pick out of these final
yeah,
32 that are already through. That if Filler or when Josh draws into him, it's going to be quite the story and quite the matchup,
yeah,
Mike.
yeah. No, my favorite, just my personal favorite pick from
You
here
can't
is
pick 8
Woo.
players this time, Mike. You can't pick 8. You
My
got to give me.
favorite is Woo, and my dark horse is going to be, and don't tell me he's not a dark horse because he's playing well.
You know me. You know me too well, Mike.
My dark horse. Wow, that's a tough one. To win it all, huh?
Win it
My
all,
dark
Mike.
horse to win it all. Man, I don't see anybody out of the top 8 winning it all. I just don't. I don't see I'm not, I'll go dark horse, I'll go Victor.
So if you were to say if you were to wager something where you would take top 8 players or the field, you would take the top 8 players and give up the other whatever it is 58 players.
Boy, top 8 players versus the field. I'll take the top 8 players versus I probably would take the top 8 players versus the field.
I'm not surprised knowing you, Mike. I'm really not shocked at this point.
Why?
No, I'm just. It's very Michael Panozzo-esque of you. No,
no, I mean, it's a close call, but I mean, it's you're down to 64 now, so the field is smaller, but it's still, you lost all the guys you weren't interested in the first bet anyway. So there's if there were 3 huge names out of the field right now, that would make a little difference. I think top 8, man. It's hard to say. Give me Federer, Francisco, Big Co, Wu, Chua, whatever. To take those 8 guys and think you're going to lose, kind of hard.
I double down. I like Kachi starting off the event, and I'm gonna stick with him again.
Kachi.
Yeah, okay. I like Kachi, and if I'm gonna pick what I would consider a dark horse, I'm going with that gentleman who beat Sky in Dang, I think is his name.
Dang.
Yeah, the Chinese player. Dang, man. I think with that break, that can sustain him through. And I know that he's already got the talent to be a top player because he is a top player. We just haven't seen him in a long time. But when you start getting more table time, your confidence only goes up. And when you have that break,
he's a solid player for sure.
When you got that break in your back pocket paired with that, that's when you can really cause some damage to anybody and everybody. So I there's a million other stories I would like to see come through, but that's who I would pick today. So
Yeah, that's a
they're
good pick.
and well, they're probably both going to go out in the round of 64. You know, the way that I
No,
would
but I mean
expect
that's a
it to
good
go.
dark horse type of
Yeah.
pick because he's a real player.
We'll see you guys coming up in the next couple of days. Maybe even later tonight with Joy if I can get him on. We'll see. But we appreciate everybody for tuning in. Matchroom Pool for Dazen if you're in the US. Matchroom Multisport for their free YouTube channel. So stay tuned, and we'll probably have some more guests pretty soon. Mike, I appreciate you, buddy.
Take care. Good seeing everybody.